About a week ago, I posted a video about modern Pharisees and loquacious verbosity, other things like that, and just kind of as a demonstration. Invited the person, to their credit, they came and did exactly what their programming led them to do. I'll post a link to that video below if you're curious. My name is Dan Paulson. Welcome to the video. Somebody was asking me about that and said, how did you not get caught up with that person? I was watching that thing going on because they said, I'm in a situation with somebody where they do that to me, and I just, it frazzles me. I get caught up into it. Okay, so I'll show you real quick. Here's what I wouldn't let the person go past was their opening statement, because it's a double negative. Here, let's just look at it real quick. Here's what the person said as a premise. Now, they've got there's a lot of words all over the place meant to obfuscate what's going on, but his premise was basically this. The yellow is his. If God does not exist, then moral knowledge does not exist. Moral knowledge does exist if we know it's wrong because we know it's wrong to torture infants, therefore God exists. And the thing that you get alerted to right off the bat is that this opening statement is a double negative. If God does not exist, then moral knowledge does not exist. Think of this. What if I said to you, you should eat something if you're hungry? Or instead I said, you shouldn't eat something if you're not hungry. Wouldn't one of them sound weird? His should sound weird. What he's basically saying is if moral knowledge exists, then God exists. Just take out the double negative. I don't want to not go to the store means I want to go, I want to go to the store. Okay, pull out the double negatives and see what's there. If moral knowledge exists, then God exists. So I was telling him that when you distill that, moral knowledge is something from the physical world. So you're saying that because something exists, that this is like the watch or the mud puddle sort of thing. You're just saying that because of something exists, then God exists, therefore God. That my point was that it was faith-based and you haven't met the criteria of demonstrating anything else. He was trying to demonstrate it's true by going off all over the place. But the thing that's important here is not to get caught up into it, but look for things like this. In this case, the person's there's a couple of techniques that they're doing. Number one is the double negatives. They've done that in other places too. As I question him on his idea that we know it's wrong to torture infants, and that's why we know God exists, because we've got the moral knowledge of that I thought that's not a good, you got to come up with something better. So his replies were things like, you've severely misunderstood my position. Perhaps it'll help if I explain what I mean by morality, starting with explaining the sort of ought used in moral obligation. Some oughts are purely descriptive, like when you want to do well in school, you ought to study. It just means something like, as a matter of practical necessity, you need to study to do well in school. Some oughts prescribe. Okay, what we're talking about here is the idea of whether or not God can be demonstrated or whether it's faith-based. Where's he going? And I want to be clear here. I mean, he's going to treat me like I'm an atheist. What I am is somebody that has not said God does or does not exist. What I am somebody who says God, the existence of God is a supernatural belief system and is based in faith and cannot be proven. That's what I said. His objective is to prove it anyway. But frankly, anyone who says they can prove supernatural is either selling something or smoking something. And at some point, starting with the double negatives, you just look at that and go, I'm not going down that rabbit hole. You're not doing anything. And the person's like, well, see, you're not disproving my point. What point? What do I have to disprove? You haven't done anything yet. You keep telling me existence, therefore God. And he would say, no, I'm not saying that. But if you work it through your mind, that's exactly what he's saying. That's the implication. It comes down to that. Existence, therefore God. Just be honest and admit that it's a faith-based claim based in a supernatural belief. That would be an honest thing to say. Anyway, okay, I just wanted to make that video. That's what prevented me to the person. That's what prevented me from getting caught up in that. I used to get caught up in those. I did. You come from places like that, you learn things. You know what's weird is you start thinking, I got something. I got this figured out. Everybody's going to want to hear it. And you start talking to people and they're not ready to hear it. They don't want to hear it. But you need to understand if you're growing and figuring things out through the material, you're figuring it out on your own, within your own mind, that they have to do the same thing. The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. I mean, we can talk about this stuff, but if you're on the path, at some point, it's like, the only way it works, I can listen to all this stuff, but it's just words. I have to sit down and go work it through in my mind in order for it to be real. Where am I going with this? This is more specific to the person because they're making this transition. Okay, so it's hard to leave that group, and the group is not ready to grow, but you think that you have something that they're going to want to hear, not realizing that you got to just move on, that they don't want to hear it, that they have to find it on their own. They have to be the right person, and they've got to find it on their own. Even if they're the right person, they still have to have the right life experience and everything else. It's only one filter of who goes on the path, the inward path, I would speculate. The individual is like doing everything they can away from really this very simple point, and they're using incredibly long replies. That's another thing. Really, what the individual is doing, all of the tactics the person is doing is apologetics. You shouldn't eat if you're not hungry. Should sound as bad as, if God does not exist, then moral knowledge does not exist. Yeah, it's hard to make that connection sometimes. You have to look at a lot of things and watch what people are doing. But if you hear things like that, it's a practiced technique to obfuscate the point. And the individual is very practiced there, and they're going to be so practiced in that they can't figure out why you can't get caught up into it. Meanwhile, you're looking at it going, what is that pile of mess you want me to get involved in? That doorway right there is not even the right thing to enter into. Also, if it's left unclear like that, most people are just going to go, I'll just float right by that. I don't question that. If you're the mind that questions what you hear, you're going to stop right there and go, oh, wait a minute. The gate's not open. You can't straighten out that first verse. They can't figure out what you're saying. They don't have the same cognitive processes. Meanwhile, you have more than that. You have to stop dealing with that. It's difficult, but we're practicing our own. When you're involved in that and you're frustrated and you're feeling those emotions and you're doing it, you're actually growing them. You're practicing it. It's organic. That's why things get worse and worse as time goes by, why they get bigger and bigger. And we think about them, we mull over them, we have to stop what we're doing. And in this case, it's like you got to separate from you have to look at that and go, this is making my brain hurt. And you're probably in that point where you're trying to, step from, okay, I was in here, now I'm moving to the outside. And you're feeling that anxiety that is driving you. That's exactly it. You got that brain. It doesn't make sense. When people talk to you and they get done, it should be clear what they've said. It shouldn't be something like, I don't think you don't understand what I'm not talking about. What? That's a practiced thing. That's not a natural, normal way to communicate. So when people are using double negatives like that, it's either, if it's not intentional, it's still wrong, but they're doing it subconsciously or unconsciously, but that it's a double negative. No, don't go past that. That's why I didn't get in that rabbit hole. I didn't get caught right there. I could see right off the bat it was not worthy of going after. It was just watching the person go through that cycle over and over again and realizing that's what they're there for. I built this construct. I want you to come and play. Meanwhile, the doorway doesn't even work. Sorry, I'm not coming in to play. Okay. At the same time, I can tell you there would have been a time I would have probably tried to define things, argue with the person. I would have gone into the rabbit hole. I don't anymore because I see right at the beginning there's a flaw in the start. Everything else is going to be founded on that opening statement. And then when he goes and says things, if you read the comments, you'll see that they're not even related. If a robot was aware of its metal plate in its head, it's like, okay, yeah, this is just the watchmaker analogy in a different garment. Come on. Okay, so things like double negatives, and then you have a line where you ask a question or you make a comment. Your comment implies this, and his responses are just long, multiple paragraphs in length, huge for comment threads. So there's this incredible, long, drawn out, and if you were to read through them, you'd be like, what? It is so twisted. It's just meant to obfuscate. And it's practiced. It's what they do, and they think it's right. Meanwhile, you're a seeker. You're not going to do that. And if you ever stop along the way and believe something that this is it, that that this supernatural something here or there is it, I don't know what happens. I think you stop being a seeker. All right, now that having been said, there are some more things that really need to be considered. We're looking for the truth. We want to know what's there. We need to understand what the other person is going through, though. We have the capacity to do that, so do it. Why is the person having that belief? The person believes in something that is, it's a belief that allows them to feel better, to circumvent the knowledge of death, to be able to live with the idea of that, but also other things. It can give them guidance. It can make them feel better about themselves. There's positive things that come with religion and a belief system in a large group of people that have evolved to the point that you are constantly aware of your death. Day by day by day, it's hard for us to not be aware of it. So there's a point in time where, despite the fact that religions have a lot of different faces, I guess, somewhere at the core of them is this understanding that life continues. And my belief and what I believe is true is contingent upon that right there. So when you're arguing with somebody in a different way, you have to know they're coming from a place that you're not coming from. This is something that I believe in that helps me circumvent my fear of death. Are you really going to touch it? When you know that, they won't say that. They don't know it. They won't believe that. They won't think so at all. You'd never hear that. You have to step back and go, that's what's going on. I see it. They don't. This is not a good argument. We're not arguing for the same things. I need to go. Yeah. So, yeah, that's what I would say. It's helpful to understand things like that then too, because then it gives weight to the idea that, instead of just playing this back and forth, it's like, no, it's critical. Let it go. It's a futile attempt. If you're the one that wakes up and goes, let the wind take you. Okay, for sure, if you read through his stuff, and I didn't continue reading through it, at some point you know exactly what he's doing, but there's a point, if you were to read through there, you'll find blocks of double negatives. You'll find things that are like non-related, or if this, then this, and that's got to be logical. And since that's logical, the only way that could be logical is this over here. It's always that same sort of thing back and forth that just, it's an apologetic technique. It really is. I added this in later. I forgot about this during the videoing of it. There's another tactic that is very common. They will make some fallacious comment saying it's true and then tell you to explain to them why it's not. They will start putting things out there, making claims and telling you to describe how something could be or where something... What they're doing is trying to direct your thought process. They're trying to steer you thinking someplace. Never fall for that. When they're telling you, you explain to me something, it's like, whoa, you don't drive this boat. You don't tell me what to go do for you. Be aware of that too. When people are telling you to do something, just don't even respond to it. Just stick with your course. I think that's what happens in these instances, and what gets people so frustrated is that, the tactic is to set you back on your heels and never be able to provide anything. Tell them, look, you got a claim on the table. Go there. Show me your claim. So it works for people that are not like you. All right. Questions, comments, other ideas? That's just in this case, it's just a double negative right there that you're looking for right off the beginning. That's such a red alert right there. Easy to spot too. Really easy, really common. And you know what you're going to find down there? The same rabbit hole that somebody else has that starts with double negatives. Yeah. Just know that. Like flat earthers. Yeah, they're going to have something that all sounds the same, even if they're not working together, right? Okay. Same thing here. Okay. Because I know this is not funny for some people. But, seekers are out here in public. We better know what's going on. All right. Questions, comments? I'm going to move on to the Genesis stuff. I got to get that numbering system. That is so critical. That right there is an answer. It's a demonstrable answer. All right, I'll wrap this video up. I hope that was helpful. Yeah, we got the double negatives. We got this confusing verbiage that's all over the place, and that it really boils down to long verbose ways that distill down to Because things exist, then God must be. Because the perfection is there of the mud puddle or whatever. Because humans can create things perfectly, then the only way the universe could be is through creation. It's always, no matter how, it's always going to take that same path. So each person invents their own flavor. They put a different color on it. This guy's got the, what was it? The knowledge of, the moral knowledge. He's using moral knowledge. And then goes off from there and pulls in all kinds of other things. So really, to me, there's not a topic right there. It is somebody that's trying to say supernatural exists because natural exists, and there's no possible way that that's ever going to be resolved. If it exists, then it's natural. If supernatural is ever proven by natural things, then you're going to find out that supernatural was natural all along. Why stop looking? Why stop looking? Okay, and then of course, that other tactic, the one that it's put you on, you're like, oh my God, don't just sit there and go, you know what? That's not your business you're not in charge of my thinking process. This is not the direction I go. You don't tell me what to go think about or what to explain. What they've done is they've concocted this verbal mess, this jumbled mess in their head, thrown it on the table and told you to explain it and sort it. And if you can't do it, they must be right. Yeah, think about it. Don't go there. So let those end right there. Yeah, that's a big step. Don't let people drive your thinking. That's the set you back on your heels is the tactic. Yeah. You can't figure it out ever. If it's not clear and simple and make you feel good at the end of the day, you're with the blind leading the blind. Okay, hope this was helpful. Questions, comments, I'd appreciate it. All right, see you in the next video.